Hey there, Contractor Kev here with Overseas Contractor Academy, and today we're going to be talking about my experiences working in Mosul in northern Iraq. If you own a television and you've turned that television on the news lately, you know that Mosul is currently the big sort of spot that we are trying to get ISIS out of, and will likely be a future hotspot for contractor employment. So make sure to tune in today and find out a little bit about Mosul. Stay tuned. Okay, so Mosul, Iraq. It's up in the north, just basically south and east of Erbil, which is the Kurdish capital in the north. And when I was there, I first went there in 2007, mid-2007, and it was a divided city. It was basically the armpit of Iraq. It's a major city, but there was Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish people all sort of fighting for control for this place. And so for that reason, it was a real hot spot. There was constant incoming fire. About the only people that weren't shooting at us were the Kurds, because those guys, they're our friends and they really are very pro-American. So we're helping mostly the Kurds push down from the north, but at the same time, the Sunni and the Shia Iraqi forces out of Baghdad are pushing in from the south and from the west. And so they're trying to push the ISIS guys out of Mosul. And you've got to go very, very carefully, very, very slowly, because every inch of ground over there, it's booby-trapped, IED, all that stuff. They know that they're going to lose, but they're booby-trapping it on the way to make it cost us. So progress is really slow. We're not just sweeping right in and taking over whole cities. So anyway, Mosul, northern Iraq. I was there in 2007 when it was a divided city. Nowadays, obviously, no longer divided. It belongs to ISIS, and we're trying to push them out. So Mosul was my first contractor assignment overseas. I went from sunny, lovely Florida, peaceful, residential, sort of suburban lifestyle, to living and working in Mosul, which was a point of a lot of conflict for us. The Sunni and the Shia, no one wanted the Americans there, and so you had, at that time, Al-Qaeda in Iraq working with both the Sunnis and the Shias to try to get us to leave. Only the Kurds were pretty much on our side, and they today are still the people that are on our side, so go Kurdistan, props and respect to Kurdistan. But yeah, at the time it was a hot spot, and it was my very first contractor assignment. So there was multiple times a day incoming fire to the base, and you would just hear the explosions, the impacts, or whatever. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but if you're working in Iraq or Afghanistan, this is just going to be part of the job. You do have occasional incoming fire. Now, to put this in perspective, imagine that you're in a stadium at home and someone's strong enough to throw a small rock up over the outside and into the stadium. And what are the chances that's going to hit someone? Well, it's a small rock in a giant stadium. Well, it's the same thing when you have this small impact that's going to have a blast radius of maybe 4, 5, 6 feet on a base that's a couple miles around. So what are the odds that it actually hits something where there's people, or hits a building, or a person, or a car, or something like that? The odds are actually pretty good that it's just going to hit the ground somewhere where there's no one at, because that's what happens 99% of the time. So it's much more the mental effect, the mental aspect of, oh my God, there's incoming fire, and I heard something go boom, in the middle of the night or whatever. That's the part that you've got to work to overcome if you're going to work overseas in a conflict zone. Now, there's plenty of jobs in other places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Oman where you're never going to have anything like that. But if you're going to make the big money, if you're going to work in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is just going to be part of the job. And Mosul, for me, was my baptism by fire, because, man, 2-3 times a day. And over the 4, 5, 6 months I think I was there, I definitely learned to get used to it and realized it was no big deal, generally speaking. Yes, people did occasionally get hurt. You're going to have incoming fire 2 or 3 times a day. Some people do get hurt, but I guarantee you more people would get hurt running for cover and not ducking their head when they're trying to get into the bunker and knocking themselves out. That happened more often than the incoming fire actually hurting anyone. So you kind of draw your own conclusions from that. But again, back to Mosul. Mosul was a place with a lot of incoming fire, and I got used to it being there. Okay, so one of the key things that we really need to think about when it comes to Mosul, I've explained in the past that it was divided up between all 3 factions, the Shia, the Kurds, and the Sunni, and everyone kind of fought for control. There wasn't really harmonious living, really nowhere in Iraq. I mean, there's very, very few places where there's all 3 factions and all 3 factions get along. Generally speaking, a city is either Kurdish, or it's Sunni, or it's Shia. And because of it's only Sunni or it's only Kurd, they get along with each other. Whereas split up cities like Mosul, you're going to have a lot of conflict. There's always going to be pushing for control. In the future, what will happen? Well, we will push ISIS out. There's no question about that. And eventually we will push into Raqqa on the Syria side. The new elect Donald Trump, president, says we're probably going to put ground troops over there to just squash ISIS. And so that being the case, again, Mosul becomes the big operational city that's nearest to there for us to have logistical and operational support for anything that we do in Syria. So for that reason, I guarantee you're going to see a lot of jobs both in Erbil, in Kurdistan, as well as Mosul. Once it's freed up, they're going to have to rebuild it because, of course, wherever ISIS goes, they just tear the place to hell. And they're not really good on maintenance, so you can guarantee the electrical grid, the water system, all that will all have to get rebuilt. And when it does get rebuilt, guess who's going to be doing it? Army Corps of Engineers, and they're going to be hiring private contractors to do the work. So it means job openings in Mosul in the future. So it's a good place to be looking for if you're wanting that big money and you're wanting to go work somewhere, help rebuild, help support the troops, help support the American effort. When we push ISIS out, Mosul, I guarantee you, it is going to be a hotspot in the future. So that's why it's worth doing this video about. It's worth you thinking about and looking for within the next probably 6 to 12 months. When we push ISIS out of there, there's going to be a lot of jobs. It's going to happen because we're going to push onward and we're going to push towards Raqqa, which is ISIS capital in Syria. And when we do, Mosul is probably going to be the main support base for that. It makes the most logistical sense if you look at a map. So for that reason, good future jobs there. There will definitely be a heavy amount of American involvement, so it won't quite be the hot spot it was back when I was there in 2007. It's going to be a good place to work, and it's going to be good future opportunities. So keep your eyeball on it. Okay, so that's it for today for Mosul. Keep it in mind. Used to be a hot spot. Now, obviously, we're pushing to take it back over. We're taking over all the outlying towns and really basically surrounding and cutting it off, and soon we'll be pushing into it. When I say we, I mean the supported Iraqis, which is mostly the Kurds, but also some of the guys out of Baghdad and the Sunnis and the Shias from there. So when we do, it'll become a future hotspot for jobs because we will then be pushing ISIS further. And the president has signaled to the Joint Chiefs of Staff that guess what, we're probably going to be looking at sending a lot more troops and maybe even ground troops into Syria, but certainly anything that happens in Syria, it's going to get supported in Iraq. That's where the fight is going to start first. And so Mosul definitely needs to be on your radar if you're looking to become an overseas contractor. That's it, and thanks for watching. As usual, hit the like or subscribe button. If you share our videos on your social media, you will win the lottery within 5 years of doing that. I guarantee it personally. If not, just wait longer. It will happen. Just keep playing. Thanks for watching. See you next time.